Hey everyone, I am back. It's Dr. Hammond here with your mental health moment. I hope that you have had a wonderful week. And for those of you who do celebrate Easter, obviously we just had Easter a couple of days ago here. Excuse me. So I hope you had a beautiful Easter celebration. I certainly did. My son got to do Easter egg hunt, all the good things. We went to church and just had a really great day celebrating Easter. So again, if you celebrate Easter, happy Easter to you as well. So today on today's mental health moment, I wanted to talk to you. I was thinking honestly about, this past weekend and Easter, and usually we think of it as a time of renewal. We're in the springtime now, and we think about transitioning, right, into this. Well, I live in Florida, so there's not too many different seasons where we're usually transitioning. It's always warm here most of the time. It's most of the time it's always warm here, of course, in Florida. So when I do travel, though, I get to see the different seasons, and I think spring is just so beautiful. And you see the flowers blossoming and just things starting to spring up, which didn't look that way, right, during the winter when maybe the trees were more brown, and then you see different colors. So it's a really beautiful experience to see spring and all the transitions that happen in nature, but also within ourselves this time of year. Generally, we think of spring cleaning and we think of transitioning right into this new season of our life. So maybe you are in a transition time as well. A lot of us get stuck though mentally with transitions because for our brain, it can be hard to change. It is hard sometimes. We ourselves, right, can be mentally resistant to certain changes, even when the changes are good for us. That's just what happens with transitions. So in today's mental health moment, I'm going to give you 3 tips for you to think about how do you get through the transitions in your life. And what I mean by transitions are literally any life transitions. So whether you're in a transition right now, maybe you're transitioning out of your job into, well, maybe you're in your job and you're transitioning to a new position. That's a transition. Maybe it's a promotion, which is amazing, but that's still a transition. Maybe you're leaving your job altogether and going to another career field, or going to another department, or whatever it is may be. A lot of times we have work transitions. Sometimes there's family transitions. Maybe you're getting out of a relationship, or maybe you're starting a new relationship. Maybe you're starting to have kids, or maybe you're starting to have grandkids. I mean, there's so many different types of transition. Maybe there was something difficult that happened to you, some type of loss, some type of unexpected move. All those sorts of things are transitions. Now, again, transitions are not always negative. There's very positive transitions as well. But the main thing to remember is mentally, you have to be prepared for these transitions. We can't prepare for everything, of course. There's a lot of things. There's a lot of things that just pop up in life, and we aren't necessarily prepared for them per se, but there are ways that you can think about, how do I make sure that I'm working on being the best version of myself so that I can handle the transition when it does come my way, whatever that transition may look like, good or bad. And it's Dr. Hammond here with your mental health moment. So again, let me know where you're tuning in from today in the chat. Okay, so 3 tips for you today. So the first tip that I want you to think about when it comes to transitioning, whatever your transition looks like for you, is to remember self compassion. And I want you all to type that in the chat today. Self compassion. Of the thousands and thousands of people that I've talked to throughout the world in many different capacities, whether it's work related or some type of other business or personal or whatever it is, I've had the opportunity to talk to people all around the world. And the self compassion is something that we all can really work on. Unfortunately, some of us, this may be you, may have really loud inner critics. But making sure that you're working on your own self compassion which really there's a couple steps with that. It's going to be really important with transitions. So number one, whatever transition you're going through, you have to acknowledge your feelings toward them. Again, what's so fascinating, some of you may know, some of you that have been tuning into Mental Health Moment for a while here, at the end of each year, we usually talk about what are our words or our phrases for the new year. So for this year, my word is perspective. And it's amazing. Some of the words and phrases that we tend to use or tend to think about for the new year, we start to see throughout the year, like, wow, we're really glad, right? We picked that word or phrase. And I've just, yeah, really had to continue to put things into perspective. But why that's important, perspective especially, is that you often decide what is the meaning of this transition that's happening in your life. Like this is through your lens, right? This is through the narrative. This is through the story that you're telling yourself. So let's say you have a new job opportunity, let's say there's so many things that happen to us, you all, that we think are negative things, and then we later on learn that it was a blessing in disguise. Who can relate to that, right? Many things that happen. So let's say that you're let go from a job and you're looking for a new job. You have the perspective, you have the opportunity to have that self-compassion and say, okay, maybe this was for a better reason. Maybe this was there, maybe there's something better out there for me. You can think like, you are allowed to think like that, right? Or you can say, oh my gosh, my life is over. This is horrendous. I can't believe this happened. And again, not that you can't acknowledge those feelings. It can be hard, right? If you get let go of from a job, let's say, that can be really difficult, and acknowledge those feelings, but also have the self compassion and put things into perspective. Because again, a lot of times things happen for us, right? As we always hear, and they're things that are happening for the betterment of our lives. So again, so step one, or not step one, but tip one today is for you to think about, how do you have more self compassion during these times of transition? And again, the transition I just mentioned, maybe leaving one job for the next, is just one example. There are so many transitions that we go through in our lives, but have the self compassion for yourself. Number two, tip number two, for you to think about is really looking at what is your routine. Because a lot of times with transitions, let's say you're going through a transition where you lost someone that was close to you. That can be a really difficult transition. Grief is really hard. It just is. um, but thinking about your routine, thinking about what things can you put into place, that might have, well, that's something you may not have been able to control, whatever loss that you experience. But what is it that you can control in your current routine? So a lot of times, most of us have our routines in the morning. You wake up and maybe you brush your teeth, wash your face, or, do those sorts of things. But what other things can you put as a part of your routine to know and understand that there really are some things, not everything, but some things that you can control during this transition time, particularly if the transition time is something that is difficult for you to deal with, right? So one of the things that, and some of you already know, I'm a tea lover, you all. So I love my cups of tea. Those, honestly, at this point, my brain just goes into like, okay, it's going to be like reset, recharge time. It's going to be a relaxing time. And again, it doesn't take that long to drink a cup of tea, right? But just those small things to add into your routine. Maybe you're not a tea drinker, but whatever else that you can add in to think about, how can I get through this transition time, is going to be something that can be really, really powerful. And you all, please believe that it is the little things sometimes that we add into our day. It's the smallest thing sometimes. I find that as a society, we tend to focus on these big elaborate changes when it comes to mental health, when it comes to self-care. Not that the elaborate things aren't important. I've been on really nice, amazing, great trips with my family, and I'm grateful for those things, and they were very relaxing. Don't get me wrong. So, not that the relaxation doesn't come in many different forms, but it doesn't always have to be that way. It's the smallest, tiniest things sometimes that you add into your routine that can really shift and change you. So those of you who have been rocking with mental health moment here for the last couple of years have known. I believe I keep losing track of time, I feel like, but I think it was about 2 years ago or so when I made this really huge change with my morning routine, as in not getting up immediately and running straight to my phone and running straight to check social media or email, those sorts of things. I don't do that anymore. And I just changed that one little thing and I started my day in a different way. And it's made a massive difference in my life. So I want you to think about, tip number two, your routine. And what is one small change that man, if I made this change, and you might not even know actually, but you try to make that change, but just know that there's a huge chance that it can really drastically change your life and help you during this time of transition. And then the third tip I want to leave you with today. This can be hard for some of you. I completely recognize that. I wish that some of these tips on mental health moment were super easy to implement, but that sometimes is just not the case when it comes to self care and wellness, right? But I want you to think about, how do you seek support, right? So someone type in the chat, help, help, because for some of you, you know who you are, and this is not coming from a place of blame by any means, but just recognize that you may have a hard time asking for help sometimes. But it's really critically important, especially during times of transition, that you ask for help, right? So wherever that transition may be, if you have a new child coming into your home, that's a major transition. I still remember, my son's almost 12 here in the next couple months, but I do still remember those that newborn stage. Like it was a lot, and it was just hectic, and he was our firstborn, and we didn't know what to expect, and all those things were happening. So that's a major life transition to have a child, or maybe there's a grandchild, coming in your life, or maybe there's some type of other change that's happening. Maybe it's a divorce, maybe it's a separation, maybe it's a marriage, maybe it's a new partnership. Like wherever that transition is, however the stress looks for you, because again, even good things can bring us stress as well. It's a different type of stress than being in dark times, but it can still bring us stress. Make sure that you know who is it that is supportive of you. Who is it in your life? Is it your friends? Is it your family? Is it someone at your place of worship? Do you need a mental health professional? Right? Where is it that you need that support? And make sure that you're reaching out and asking for the support that you need during these transition times. So, those are my three tips for you all today. I want to remind you all, if you've been watching the last mental health moments, you've seen it, but I'm going to remind you again. I will be speaking at the Get to Worthy Summit, which is in Philadelphia, May 24th and 25th. You can register here at this link, gettoworthysummit.com. You can use my promo code Hammond10 and get $10 off of the general admission or the VIP ticket. And I hope to see you there. It's going to be a phenomenal summit. It's all about mental health, wellness, emotional health, emotional well-being. It's really something we all need, right? We have to continue to be in the mindset of, how do we become the best version of ourselves, which is what mental health moment is all about. But how do we become the best version of ourselves so we can show up powerfully for ourselves and for those around us? So I encourage you to sign up. I hope to see you there. And again, throughout this year, I will definitely let you know where I'll be speaking, well, publicly speaking, because again, a lot of my engagements at this time are with private companies. But nonetheless, when I am able to invite you all to things, I'll definitely let you all know. You can always reach me at Dr.NekeshiaHammond.com as well, or connect with me on social media, Instagram, Dr.Hammond, X, Facebook, LinkedIn. I'm on all the networks sharing all things mental health and wellness for you. So be sure to connect. I will see you all next Tuesday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here live on Black Women Empowered Incorporated Facebook page, YouTube, and LinkedIn Live. Be sure to start using these 3 tips though in your life when it comes to the transitions in your life. I wish you well, and I'll see you all next week. Bye, you guys.